Do you know someone who always seems to be in the middle of crisis? Nod your head. Someone whose life is nonstop of a cycle of conflict, confusion, gossip, and emotional emergencies. Or maybe you found yourself constantly pulled into other people's chaos. In this episode of the Life Diet 365 podcast, we're talking about people who are addicted to drama. Not because they enjoy suffering, but because chaos has become familiar. Some people don't know how to function without conflict. They create it, attract it, exaggerate it, or stay connected in it because peace feels uncomfortable. We'll explore the signs of drama, addiction, why some people thrive on emotional turbulence, and how their behavior can drain your energy, distract you from your goals, and keep you trapped in cycles that don't serve you. Most importantly, you learn how to protect your peace without feeling guilty. So let's get this episode started. Well, welcome to another episode of the Life Diet 365 podcast. I am your host, Miss Straight Talk, and I think I'm going to really like this conversation. I think you will too, because you get to identify with the people in your life who are classified as addicted to drama. Today's episode is addicted to drama. When it becomes an identity, and that's the scary part, because people don't know how to be anything else outside of their drama. Some people create storms and then get upset when it rains. And if you're not careful, they'll hand you an umbrella and convince you that is your storm too. Like, why aren't you crying with me? Why aren't you sad with me? Why aren't you mad with me? So we're detoxing these people as well. Detoxing the people who are addicted to drama. And this is something that I know that many of us have experienced, but we don't always recognize it right away. These are the people who are addicted, and it's very subtle. Like they're so used to it that they ease it in as like a part of conversation or part of a text or in an activity, or, you could be talking about blueberries on the back of an ant's back and they'll come back and tell you something else. Like we're circle back to their lives and something so miserable. And so what does a drama addicted person look like? What does drama addiction look like? Drama addicted people often have one thing in common. Peace feels boring. Peace is uncomfortable. Quiet is unsettling. Agreement is unsettling. When life is calm, they unconsciously create tension because chaos has become their normal. There are people who always have a problem, always have a conflict, always have someone they're upset with, always have a crisis that requires everyone's attention. They turn minor inconveniences into major catastrophes, and their conversations rarely focus on solutions. Instead, they focus on the problem over and over again. Like they keep drilling, like you're trying to give them a ray of hope, and you're trying to show them a different perspective, and you're trying to show a ray of sunshine, or you give an example of how someone's overcome, but they will always turn around and say, well, that's them, that's not me. That was then, this is now. And and I think the one of the most dangerous things that could have happened, it's a blessing and a curse, is social media and microphones. And yes, here I am on social media with a microphone. But people also use these platforms as a way to spill their poison and give you their depression. They want everybody to be unhappy. If they're mad at someone in the news, they want you to be mad at them. If something is happening and they don't like it, they don't want you to like it. That's how you identify those people. Drama isn't an event. It's an identity for these folks. It's not just one thing that happens. It's who they are. Mr. and Mrs. Drama, Mr. and Mrs. Miserable, Mr. and Mrs. Bitterness. Okay, enough of that. I think you got the point that I'm trying to make with that. And, here's the question that we should ask. So now that we know, what this person looks like, Why do some people become addicted to drama? What causes them to fall into this pit? And as I stated in the intro, chaos feels familiar. Like, there are people that have had so much happen in their lives that when something isn't happening, that is the abnormal thing. But when things are chaotic and life is upside down, things are going bad, they like that because many people grew up in environments where conflict, tension, and unpredictability, was normal. When calm does finally appear, it feels uncomfortable. They kind of start getting that little jerk and shaking. And I'm like, oh my God, this is wrong. Something is not right. So they create the very thing that they claim they don't want. You heard me. They create the very thing that they don't want because, again, peace is unfamiliar. And you can be able to identify this easily if you grew up or your environment was polar opposite from theirs, because you will instantly say, whoa, you know what? I can't get with that this feels abnormal to me. I'm not used to chaos. I'm not used to drama. I'm not used to just being negative all the time. So when you have no familiarity with that type of a person or that type of environment, you can peg it right off. But like attracts like. So when one drama addicted person meets up with another drama addicted person, they feel this like kind and quality between the two. Like, oh, this person gets me, they feel me. But really, you're just really engaging in a whole nother cesspool of chaos. So enough about that. Drama creates attention. Now, let's be honest. A crisis attracts people. Like I said, social media is a blessing and a curse because, when we go on social media, we find certain stories that appeal to us and it has some type of, chaos or crisis to it. We'll go down the rabbit hole to try to find some more information. And when someone is constantly in distress, they often receive sympathy, validation, support, and attention. And this goes to another form of validation. Like, if I get the sympathy and attention, it validates how I feel. It validates, and it's another form of the endorphin. Endorphins, we have the happy endorphin, but then there are things that feed that make us feel, okay, I can keep going. It fuels them. That's the word I'm looking for. It fuels them. And over time, some people unconsciously learn that chaos gets them noticed. Drama, always being in the midst of something, gets them noticed because when it's quiet, it's uncomfortable. You'll hear me say that a couple of times. So, drama creates a sense of importance. Being in the middle of everybody's business can make someone feel relevant. If they're carrying information, sharing gossip, or, managing somebody else's problems, they feel needed. But being needed isn't the same as being valued. And watch out for those who are always the carrier of news, the carrier of gossip, the carrier of, oh, did you hear this? Or I have the tea. Because that person is feeding off of that energy. And when you give into it, you're continuing to fuel that behavior, whether you recognize it or not. And then drama distracts from personal growth. It's difficult to focus on your own healing when you're consumed by everybody else's problems. And that's something to look out for too, because a lot of times people don't want to deal with their own lives. So they focus on something external. They find an external crisis to bring in because to deal with their own crisis would require work. And drama becomes a distraction, from doing the hard work of self-reflection. Here's the thing. Some people like self-reflection. Some people want to avoid it. I've learned to embrace it because self-reflection helps me to grow. We may feel that we're right in a certain situation or we have a stance about how we feel about something, and our stance can be our stance. But sometimes self-reflection takes, a lot of effort. It takes a lot of time and energy to say, hey, you know what? How did I handle that situation? Was I wrong in what I said? Was I wrong in what I did? And just accept accountability for it and begin to grow. If you don't take this, then if you don't take this self-reflection or self-evaluation, it's going to stunt your growth. And so here are a couple of signs, in addition to what I just shared, you know, when you're dealing with a drama addicted person. Every conversation is negative. Oh my God, that is the most draining thing. If you want to suck the life out of me, just continue to just have negative conversations about everything. Like there is nothing positive. You go back and you find bad news and harp on the bad news, or if something didn't happen, you harp on what didn't happen. Like no hope. Like there's always a complaint, always a problem, always a villain, and always no answer. They'll complain, but then there's no solution. They thrive on gossip. Information is their currency because they know everyone's business, and often sharing things aren't theirs to tell. They're sharing things that's not for them. They escalate situations. A misunderstanding becomes betrayal. That's something to watch out for too, and that's a whole nother episode, because you're dealing with, someone who doesn't want to self-reflect. They don't have any self-evaluation. They don't want to take accountability. And so they deflect and they want to put everything off on everyone else. And a disagreement becomes a war. A simple, issue becomes a major crisis. That's a lot. Like at this stage in our lives, we just don't have the time and energy for stuff like that. And they pull others into their chaos. You've heard the term, you've used the term, you've even seen it. Misery loves company. If they're upset, they want everyone upset. They're angry, they want everybody angry. They hungry, they want everybody to be hungry. They want allies. They want allies in everything that they do, because, if they're offended about something, they're recruiting you in. We're just in an era where people can't feel like they can have their feeling about something. And that's what I disagree with. They have to go and rally a whole bunch of people to feel the same way that they feel. And it's only to validate their feelings. They hadn't really assessed how they feel about something or about a person. They've just jumped on the bandwagon. And so they resist solutions. Now, that kind of goes, hand in hand with the every conversation is negative. Because if they wanted solutions, they wouldn't always be negative. But they resist solutions. And that's a very big sign, because every solution is met with another excuse. But what if, but yeah, and this, and nope, you shut it down, shut it out, because solving the problem would end the drama. Like if there was not a problem, it would end the drama. And so then there's the hidden cost of drama. Like for you, for me, people like us that know how to steer or attempt to steer from it, it's exhausting. I'm telling y'all, like I feel this, sometimes on a regular basis. Like drama is exhausting. And so I try my best to steer clear of it. I step back. I'm in the shadows of it, because I can't do that. It steals your time, your focus, your emotional energy, your peace, and your productivity. And that's what they're attempting to do, because as long as you're trying to gain light and personal growth and success, they don't want that for you. They do what they can to pull you back and draw you back in with them. You can spend so much time managing someone else's chaos that you neglect your own life. And I'm going to tell you something. You cannot heal someone who is committed to staying in dysfunction. You just can't. Like there is nothing that you can do about it. If they're determined to stay in dysfunction, then you have to let it be. But here's a way that you could protect yourself. Stop accepting every invitation. Don't accept the invitation to the argument. Not every argument requires your attention. Like sometimes it's a discussion. This is how you feel. This is what you thought. And you just leave it alone, because you're trying to be drawn in to something heated because they're low on fuel. And the way that they get you going is to find something to get all entangled with. And now you done lost your distraction, or lost your focus rather. And not every crisis requires your involvement. Like you don't have to be a part of everything. And not every phone call requires an hour. You see, you notice with this podcast, I ain't trying to make this no hour. I'm not trying to take up that much of your time. I think that you could get the perspective that I'm giving in the short time that I'm giving it. You feel me? You're not responsible for fixing every problem. You're not the neighborhood therapist, and you're not the emotional support animal for some of these people. And you have to ask better questions, instead of, immediately jumping in, ask, what do you think you're going to do? How do you plan to handle it? What solutions are you considering? And watch how quickly the conversation changes, because now you're putting the ownership back on them. It's their responsibility. If they're being an emin about it, then say, hey, so what you going to do about it? What do you think you should do? Well, and now let them start thinking and figuring out how they're going to handle it. Peace is expensive. Like, you can't see the dollar signs behind it, but you can see the dollar signs within it, because if you lose your peace, then you're depressed, you're not going to work, you're not doing what you're supposed to do, and now you're going to the doctor, and now you're taking medicine. It's costing you. It costs you lessons. It costs you heartbreak. It costs you growth. Stop giving your peace away for free. So here's a question for you. I think I've asked this question before, but it bears asking in this episode. Who in your life leaves you emotionally exhausted every time you interact with them? Because there's that person or persons that you are emotionally exhausted, whether it's a phone call, it's a personal interaction, a letter, a text message, you know who they are. And it's not because, they're struggling. We all struggle, but because they repeatedly create the chaos and expect you to clean it up. Write their name down. And then the next thing I want you to do is, am I helping them, or am I helping them stay exactly where they are? Sometimes our constant rescuing enables the dysfunction. We can become enablers of that because we think that we're helping. We don't want to walk away. We know the person may need our help. They may need our support. And all of that may be true. But if they don't want the help, you got to detox from that person. So for the next 7 days, next 10 days, next 30 days, pay attention to your conversations. Ask yourself internally. You don't have to ask out loud because people think you're crazy. Is this conversation creating peace or chaos? Is the person seeking a solution or an audience? Ooh, that's a good one. Are they seeking a solution or an audience? And am I participating in drama that has nothing to do with me? Then you make one commitment. This week, I will not volunteer for emotional jobs that don't belong to me. I'm not volunteering for that. So remember, just because someone lives in chaos doesn't mean you have to move in with them. You can love people without joining their dysfunction. You can care about people without carrying their drama. Catch that. You can care about people without carrying their drama. And every time you want to say no, to what drains or disrupt your peace, you say no to it, because everything is about keeping your peace and your energy protected. Hey, look, I hope that you have gained something from this particular episode, and, share this with the folks that you know and love, and folks that you know could use it, because everybody's sitting in somewhere for 15 minutes and can join this conversation. So I'm looking forward to you continue to follow the conversation, and looking forward to talking to you again next time. Take care. Bye-bye. And just like that, another conversation, another perspective, and hopefully another step toward reclaiming yourself. Listen, every time you say yes to everybody else at the expense of yourself, you are teaching people that your boundaries are negotiable. Listen, constantly sacrificing yourself to keep everybody else comfortable will eventually leave you emotionally bankrupt. You do not have to earn rest, apologize for protecting your peace, or explain every boundary you set. Because around here, we don't say no with guilt. We say it with clarity. Until next time, protect your peace, guard your energy, and remember, what drains you will never sustain you. This has been the Life Diet 365 podcast with Miss Straight Talk. Thanks for listening, and I hope you will subscribe and join me the next time. Take care. Bye-bye.